Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast for a thriving life and business. And we are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we are going to be talking about the power of self-love. That we will discuss the benefits of self-love, what happens when you love yourself, and how your relationship with yourself and others transform when you have self-love. Watch how your life changes and experience what it feels like to have an inspired and empowered life. I'm your host, Nanci Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and intuitive business expert. I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform your life. The show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. Together, let's create a life you love. So let's talk self-love. Self-love is all about, it is a life changer. It is a game changer. And the more that you love yourself, the more your life changes. And know that loving yourself can be this creative process, and you can become creative in how much you can learn and grow in learning to love yourself. And I also want to let you know, this is a journey, okay? This is not a destination. The journey of self-love is just like what I said. It's a journey, it's a process, it's an unfolding over time. And to me, it is the most important process that you can undergo for you to make the changes on every level that you seek. And when you have self-love means that it's unconditional. I am going to be talking about unconditional love of yourself. When you have that conditional love of self, where if you do something or if you behave in a certain way, then you'll love yourself. That's not self-love. It's based on your expectations of yourself and that you should perform or do in certain ways, and then you can love yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that place inside of you that you say, you can look in the mirror and you say, I really love myself. I feel really good about who I am and who I'm becoming. And you share and you're radiating that love. See, I'm talking about love at that soul level. soul self-love. And when you're in that place, you're feeling that love exuding from you, radiating from you. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, I also want to make a distinction really clearly. Now, there are people, and you may know people, that they think they love themselves, but it's not real self-love. Because if someone is boasting and bragging about who they are or what they've done, that's not true self-love. Or people, and I know the big term right now is narcissists. I'm not talking about being narcissistic. When you have that deep, true self-love from your soul, it's easy for you to love others. It's easy for you to become kind and compassionate because you're being kind and compassionate to yourself. And the more that you're able to do that, the more that you're able to do that for others. And that's the power of self-love. So we have some questions coming in. Good to see you, ladies. Misty and Anastasia. Misty says, we are all on a different journey and we go at our own pace. And that is so true. So I really want you all to know that you're not in a race. This is not a race to get who gets most self-love first. So, Misty, you are correct. Everybody's in their own journey, and it's having compassion for your journey and not comparing yourself. When you're comparing yourself to others, that's not self-love. It's not self-love. And so that's you being able having that journey and accepting and knowing that you're in the journey and just being okay with your process and your journey, that's self-love. That's self-love. And I'm going to give you an example of a client. This client had this boss, and the boss would treat the client, let's call her Jasmine. And so Jasmine was at this job, and her boss was so mean to her, and he really wasn't respecting her. He wasn't listening to her, and the relationship between them, and she was in a lot of pain and conflict about it. And she started working with me, and we started doing a lot of work on loving herself. And what started happening is Jasmine, she started loving herself more and having a different relationship with herself, which in turn started having a different relationship with her boss. She started setting more boundaries with him. Now, again, there was a way she was able to do it so that he wasn't upset, but he started respecting her more. And he started, like, the more she loved herself, the relationship with her and her boss changed. And that is the power of self-love. And that's how self-love can change your relationships and change your life. And then when you are loving yourself, you will see that things can become easier. Life can become easier. That's the power of self-love. And I see we have a couple more questions. Anastasia asked, how do we know if we really have self-love? So the way that you know that you really have self-love, it's starting to look at one of the things that I talk about with my clients is how are you talking to yourself? That self-talk. And are you talking in a nice way, lovingly, compassionate? Or are you beating yourself up? Oh, you stupid idiot. Why did you do that? Or you got to do better. Or why can't you get this right? So, one of the ways you know that you are loving yourself is how you're talking to yourself, how you're treating yourself. And I'm going to go deeper into this because I have a list of actually ways that you are loving yourself. So we're going to go deeper into that. And the feeling is you just love yourself. There's this, think about in your life someone you love and you just love them. It could be a partner, it could be a child, it could be a grandparent, it could be whoever, but you just love them and you love them, like you love them so much and unconditionally, and you honor where they're at. And that's how you want to feel towards yourself. So we're going to go deeper into it. So hopefully, Anastasia, that could help deepen your understanding of that self-love. And Mickey asks, can you give a definition and description of a narcissist? And how would you know if you have experienced it or not, if you are one? Okay. So what I'm gonna give you a definition from and it's not an official definition, but I will tell you that what I can do is next show I can give you a list of more traits or things that, what to look for in terms of narcissistic behavior and things like that. A person who is narcissist is someone, and they're very wounded, okay? Because a narcissist is a person who's only thinking of themselves. They are not, when they're in relationship, it's all about them. They're usually very controlling and they want to control other people's behavior. And they have a hard time having empathy or compassion for other people. And so there's a lot of control. There's a lot of not compassion, no empathy, they don't have emotional intelligence. Let's put it that way. And we've done shows on emotional intelligence. So a narcissist does not really have that. And nor a lot of times a narcissist may not even care, because they want it their way. It's their way or the highway. Now, here's the thing. I may be describing some people that are not narcissists, but they may have narcissistic tendencies. And that doesn't mean they are a full-fledged narcissist. In some ways, we all have narcissistic tendencies, because when that part of you wants that love or wants that attention, or needs to be fed with approval, or wants to be liked, and you're not thinking about someone else, there could be some narcissistic, and I'm doing this in air quotes for those of you who are listening to the podcast, There could be tendencies, but I also want you to know that that this is about learning how the more that you have the self-love, the more you will start to be able to spot. And what I'm hearing, Mickey, and I feel like you're asking this for a lot of people, because I did use the term narcissist, that we will talk more about that. I can give you a more fuller definition and a list of narcissistic traits to help you understand that. And here's the thing, the more you love yourself, the more you will steer away from unhealthy, toxic relationships. And being in a relationship with a narcissist usually is toxic or unhealthy for you. So, to be continued in the conversation. Okay? So, what is it? Let's talk about what happens with self-love. What does self-love really look like or feel like or seem like? So it's about having a healthy relationship with yourself. So what does a healthy relationship with yourself mean? So when you like yourself, you like who you are, you like who you're becoming. And then you take it another step further and you're feeling that energy of I'm loving myself. And here's the thing, it's coming from a deep place within. It's coming from a healthy place where you're not needing other people's approval. You get to give it to yourself. Approval, acknowledgement. And again, I want to remind you all, this is a journey, this is a process, and it usually does take years to develop. And so one of the other ways that you know that you have a healthy relationship with yourself is you start trusting yourself more, and you stop the self-doubt. You start tuning into your intuition, and you're able to really feel that self-trust. And then what ends up happening, and this is where it involves you and others, is when you trust yourself, you begin to trust when a relationship is not good for you. There's red flags. And instead of ignoring red flags, you say, you know what? I am feeling this person is not healthy for me. It's not good for me. And that may be a romantic relationship. It may be a friendship. It may be someone in your family. And this is about you making those healthy choices from a very conscious place. And so let me talk about that so we're all on the same page. You have your conscious mind, which is making those conscious, very clear, conscious, distinguishing decisions. I see the question, so I'm going to do this first, and then I'll get to Misty's next question. So making that conscious decision empowers you. And like when it comes to a relationship, you're like, yes, I want to be in connection with this person. No, I don't want to. If it's a really unhealthy, toxic relationship. So making that clear, conscious choice. And then you have your subconscious mind, and that's the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time that is recorded every moment. Limiting beliefs, emotions that need to be healed and cleared, like fear or anger or shame or guilt. And all of those emotions will affect your self love and how you feel about yourself. So, healing those subconscious patterns is a really important piece in being able to increase your self love. And then you have your superconscious mind, which is the part of you that is unconditionally loving. And what happens is as you connect more and more to your higher self, that wise, unconditionally loving part of you, and your soul, also unconditionally loving, and God or universe, higher power, whatever you choose to call it, as you connect more deeply to your angels and guides, they all love you unconditionally. And the more you can make that deeper connection, it's clearing the old energies. The more you make the deeper connection, the more you can allow yourself to connect and love yourself more and more with those aspects of self. Now, Misty asked, does this come better with age? So, Misty, when you ask, does this come better with age? What specifically are you asking? That self love, are you asking, or being able to say no to unhealthy relationships, which is also part of self love? So, if it's something different than what I'm talking about, self love. Thank you, Misty. Okay, so yes, what happens is self love actually can grow with age. But I also want to point this out is if you're someone who is working on yourself or willing to grow, all right, and you're willing to grow, and those of you who are listening to this show, thank you for being here, and you're willing to grow. You have a willing to grow mindset. And in that willing to grow mindset, self love grows. Because the more you heal yourself, the more you take care of yourself, and I'm going to talk more about it, the more that self love grows. If you do not have a mindset and if you have a closed or fixed or unhealthy mindset, and you are not, like, usually somebody who has that kind of mindset is not going to be listening to this show. And so they more than likely may not grow in self-love. So there's a real distinction. So I want to acknowledge all of you with growth mindsets that you are growing in self-love, and it does get better with age. The more you learn, the more you change, the more you heal, self-love grows. So congratulations. Yes, it does you do get better with age, and it does get better with age. Another quality of that self-love is being honest with yourself. And we've talked about that in past shows. Being honest with yourself is learning to be able to be aware of the places where you have those limitations, where you do need to grow or things do need to change. And then there's places where you need to acknowledge yourself. Sometimes when I'm working with clients, sometimes, and I found this, is that sometimes it's harder, and see if this feels like you. Sometimes it's harder to acknowledge the good things, the positive things that you about yourself than the negative. And what happens is it's learning to do all of it, learning to acknowledge your strengths and your weaknesses. So, all of that is part of being honest with yourself. And that is really a very important part of self-love. And excuse me. And what happens with the honesty comes acceptance. It's learning to accept your limitations, learning to accept your mistakes and learning from them, learning to accept and love your strengths. And all of that is part of self-love. And so those are really important parts of self-love. And then another part of self-love is respecting yourself. Now, what I was talking about with Jasmine and her boss, Jasmine learned to respect herself. And she wasn't going to take the treatment. And what ended up happening was, even though the relationship with her boss kept getting better and better, she realized it wasn't a healthy environment for her. And she decided to get a different job where she would be respected more. But first, she needed to respect herself. And the more she respected herself, the more that self-love and self-respect came. Now, in your own business, this is about you having that trust, that honesty, that self-respect, so that you can grow your business with integrity in a way that honors you. And honoring yourself is part of self-love and part of self-respect and accepting yourself. And then it's, how are you talking to yourself? Are you talking nice to yourself, or are you beating yourself up? And so it's really important to have that. And then there is, and this goes back to what I was talking about. It's learning to acknowledge and praise yourself. Now, and it's different than being egotistical. Again, people who boast and are boasting, I did such a great job, I'm so wonderful, I'm so great, I'm so this, da da da. That's not what I'm talking about. There's something about, it's this, when you have that true self-love, there's almost this quietness, a confidence. You don't need to boast. You can acknowledge, I did a good job. I'm proud of myself that I did this. And you can acknowledge and praise yourself in a positive, healthy way, not boasting. And when you're in that energy of that pure self-love, you're able to be, there's this confidence that exudes from you. That comes from your soul. That's soul confidence. And when I'm talking in my master classes, we're talking about getting that level of self-confidence that's so deep and so strong that you become magnetic and you radiate that love outwards. That's true self-love. And Another way that you can love yourself is forgiving. It's learning to forgive yourself, learning to forgive your past mistakes, saying, I learned this from this lesson. How can I change this? How can I make it better? So it's letting go of the regrets, letting go of all the places where you are needing to forgive yourself, letting go of and being able to forgive yourself around challenges that you've had in relationships in the past, or learning to forgive yourself about money challenges, or learning to forgive yourself around health challenges. It's learning to forgive yourself on every level. And I'm going to go deeper into that as well. So, and then it's learning to say no to yourself and to others. It's learning to have those boundaries. So, what do I mean by learning to say no to yourself and others? And what I mean by that is that it's learning to set limits on yourself. Like, for example, let's say it's having that willpower or that self-love to say no. Like, let's say you're really exhausted and you know you should go to sleep, and but you're like, no, I'm not going to go to sleep, and then the next day you're exhausted in the morning. That's not self-loving behavior. Self-love is saying, okay, you know what? I'm starting to feel tired. I feel like I'm going to go to sleep now. Or another way self love manifests is about your food. Are you eating healthy foods? Are you saying no to unhealthy foods? Are you really following the place of self love so that you're like, ooh, I am loving myself? And that is really important. It's learning those boundaries and then learning boundaries with others, like where your limits are, learning to say no. Like, no, I'm not going to go to this place. I need to stay home or rest or take care of myself. Those are all boundaries. Learning to say no so that you are doing the self-care. Self-care is crucial, and it's a way you're showing your self-love. Huge ways of showing that self-love, self-care. And it's learning to support yourself and being able to reach out to others and get the support that you need when you need it, and asking for help. So often I have people saying, I don't ask. I don't ask for help. I don't know how to ask, or I don't feel worthy or deserving. That's all self-love issues. And the more that you can allow yourself to receive support and ask for help, that's part of self-love. And I want to let you know that I am doing a masterclass, and I see your question, Anastasia, and I will get to it shortly. I am doing a masterclass next in a couple of weeks, and this class is called Confidence, Clarity, and Clients. Attract your holistic clients and increase your income. And it's for women coaches, therapists, nurses, holistic practitioners, and professionals. And during the masterclass, we're going to talk about how to develop that confidence, how to gain more clarity in your business, and how to bring in more clients. And so you will learn in this masterclass to understand more about your soul level clarity and what would keep you from that soul level clarity, and how to increase your income without overworking, and learning how to create momentum with ease and consistency. And so you want to go to the inspired and empowered living.com/masterclass. And the masterclass is on February 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So February 26th, 12 p.m. Eastern. And so go to inspiredandempoweredliving.com, the name of the show, /masterclass, MASTERCLASS. And Rebel has put it in the chat and on the different sites, etc. So definitely join us. All right. So Anastasia asks, are we also talking about doing things for ourselves, like nails done or hair done, buying things for ourselves? Totally, absolutely, Anastasia, because all of those things, if they're important to you, now some people, they may not be important to, and it doesn't matter. But if they're important to you, then yes, that's part of self-care. And having that self-care and doing that self-care is part of self-love. So that is totally, you are right on track. All of those behaviors, these are all behaviors that show that you love yourself, and that you want to care for yourself more. And all of that is part of the self-love. And so what we're going to do is next week, we'll continue this discussion. So today we talked about what is self-love, how self-love is unconditional. It's unconditional. And then we talked about, okay, I'm going to ask Misty, those things also allow type for yourself. Time. I don't know if that's what you meant. It says allow type for yourself. So can you be clearer in what you time? Okay. Yes. All of those things are part of that self-care time. And that's part of self-love. And so we talked about the different ways that self-love, when I'm talking about self-love, I'm talking about that unconditional. We talked about self-love as being the journey. It's not a destination. It's an unfoldment. It's a process that takes time and develops with age. If you have a growth mindset and you're working on yourself, or you're open to growth. And we talked about having that healthy relationship with yourself, being able to trust yourself and be honest with yourself, respecting yourself, accepting yourself, forgiving yourself, that positive self-talk, acknowledging and praising yourself, learning to have boundaries, and learning to reach out for support and ask. And so all of those are part of the way that self-love happens. And like I said, I am going to bring in, we're going to talk more about self-love and helping you to understand what is self-love and what is not self-love. I think making that distinction for you would be really helpful. And then also what a narcissist is, because I know Mickey had asked about that, and that will lead in. So we're going to talk more about self-love next week, and then we're going to go deeper into relationships. And okay, so Mickey, I see what you wrote in, and I am going to address that more next week as well. So I really want to say thank you all for being here, whether you're live or at a later time, whether you're viewing or listening. And I really want to acknowledge you for your growth mindset. And I look forward to connecting with you more next week. We are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, my YouTube channel, and listen to the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And I'm wishing you all an inspired and empowered day, night, and week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.